NCAA. I don't think you still get it when it comes to the women, but that's okay. That's not a you problem only. Cole Sports on the Daily, where we give you fresh takes. Well, like the show says, on the Daily. Friday, right? Yeah. We're almost at the weekend, and this is when I normally sit out on a subject and I talk about it almost like in an essay form. And this has been on my mind and in my heart for a good while. So, the National Collegiate Association of Athletes, or NCAA for short, two of their best times of the year, or normally when in the football season, the new year to about 2 years after 2 years, 2 weeks after the new year happens with the college football playoff, more than likely the national semifinals and the national championship game. And then now, from mid-March or roughly St. Patrick's Day-ish time period until the first weekend in April, the first Monday in April to be specific and precise. This is normally when the NCAA rakes in the most money when it comes to the sports that they hold. But the men, they get the lion's share. The women, on the other hand, not so much. And we got a chance to see that in a disturbing display. And this is why I'm going to come with the following. Email NCAA CC WNBA. Subject of email. You still don't get it when it comes to women's basketball. Body of email. And why is it that you still don't get it? It's really, really simple. So when the tournament decided to bubble up and everybody was in Indiana last year for the men's and the women's game to decide the national champion for 2021, there was a disturbing display and a disturbing disparity in how the NCAA regards the men and the women. And I don't have to talk about ad revenue. I don't have to talk about tickets at the gate. I don't have to talk about who houses what and where. No. All I have to talk about is one, or I should say two, rooms, or at least two sides of a room. You see, before the NCAA tournament began for the men, they had a catering table that was fit for kings. And they had weight and running equipment littered from wall to wall. These were athletes, mind you, and they needed to have their nourishment and they needed to have their workout time, and they needed to make sure that all of the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. For the women, instead of having a catered table that was fit for queens, they had maybe a sandwich here and there and some chips on a sparsely spread out table. And the room that held the exercise equipment, you had weights in one area, then you had maybe a treadmill in another area. You probably had something for the bench in another area. You probably had something for the for the glutes in another area, and you had something for the abdominals in the other. But it was all spread out, like either the NCAA decided the women needed to do Pilates or yoga or aerobics instead of treating them for the world-class athletes they are. That is what I find problematic because these are world class athletes. I don't care if they happen to be female. I don't care if they happen to be women. They still are world class athletes because I guarantee you, those 18 to 22-year-olds, they can clown me on the court. And I'm not in the minority as a man. Those 18 to 22-year-old women could clown just about 95% of the male population. The only ones they probably couldn't would be their counterparts and the pros who actually play basketball. The rest of the world, they could just simply dribble circles and rings around all of us. I know because I happen to have seen a couple of them up close, live, and in living color. These women don't deserve a sparse weight room. They don't deserve food that's absolutely dismal, like you're starving them as if they're concentration camp prisoners. And then the gifts that you so so easily awarded the guys, it was almost as if you could be bothered to hand the women bumper stickers or keychains. See, it's just that type of disrespect of sports in general, but I'm saying the NCAA in particular because it is so blatant, even with you all. Now, I know this year you saw that wonderful viral display that just put you all on Front Street in embarrassing fashion last year that you decided, well, you know something. March Madness 2022, the men and the women will get the same souvenirs. The men will have their own lounge, the women will have their own lounge. But that's still not good enough. And why is it not good enough? Because you're not getting the message. It's not that the women wanted the same as men, they wanted equal to the men. And that's a difference. The same meaning whatever the exact thing that you award the guys, you award the women. No, equal. What you know that men would like, do the equal and the equivalent of that with the women. Because most of the women that I know who play, they aren't just tomboys. They aren't just women who act like boys or men. They are women. So there's going to be things that they want as a woman that a man would not want. And the men would want things that a woman would not want. Equal NCAA, not the same. The only thing that needs to be the same is the consideration of them as athletes that are on par with the best in the 18 to 22-year-old range. That's the only sameness that you need to have. Everything else has to be equal, but it has to be unique to each. These women are unique the way they play, the way they are fundamentally sound. It is a unique game with them as as is the men. The men, they can run up and down. They can hop out the gym. They're athletic marvels, most of them. The women are fundamentally sound. In fact, they probably make John Wooden smile in his grave as we speak because they have the soundness of what basketball is purely about: team play, selflessness, the extra pass, the open woman in this case. They are about sharing. They are about lifting up one another. You know, the saying that President Barack Obama liked to say, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats. Well, that is pretty much how the women's game, whether it's the NCAA level or the WNBA level, happens to be. They play like a rising tide because if one of them succeeds, they feel like all of them do because it depends on one of them succeeding on the level of all of them because all of them need to be lifted up because all of them do the heavy lifting. But the thing is, we get to see the men's game on CBS. every year. Every Thursday through Sunday, one weekend. Every Thursday through Sunday, the very next weekend. And then every Saturday and Monday of the Final Four weekend. We get to see that every single year on CBS and some other channels too, True and TNT and TBS, but mostly CBS. Where do you find the women's game? ESPN, maybe? And I sometimes say maybe because you have to search for it. These women don't deserve to have their game be searched for, sought out, having no clue as to where to find it because they bust their hump just as hard and just as much as the men do. But my God, they do not get the respect that the men do. They don't. And it's an utter shame to see this, dare I be blunt and honest, misogynistic viewpoint when it comes to how men treat women in the ways of basketball. Just because we don't see all the time, because there are some women who can dunk, just because we don't see the athletic game in the women's end, does not mean it's any less good or any less of quality. In fact, in some ways, it's more of quality because you got many in the men's department who want to basically be nothing but Sports Center highlights. Forget fundamentals. They just want to sky. They want to dunk because they know that will be the easiest way to get on Sports Center. That or just stroke it from deep. The women want to do it all, and they do it all. Some of them can dunk. But I've heard many say if they could lower the goal 2 feet, or if you had women who could dunk, then I would watch the game. No, you wouldn't. Because you would find some other way to raise the bar. You know, you would move the goalposts some more in another fashion. You know, like if they could get up and down the floor like Showtime Lakers did, or if they could be physical like the game back in the day was, it would be something that would have you intentionally and unjustly raise the bar. And that's not what these women deserve. In WNBA included, the Final Four and the March Madness tournament is when the women's basketball world has the most pair of eyes on it. And we each and every year show what we collectively think of the game. We think of it, and I'm going to be really blunt here, as boring. We think of it as unattractive. We think of it as not marketable. And we think of the women as unathletic. And all of those things are vastly untrue, and they are blatant lies. It is marketable. It is entertaining. They are fundamentally sound, and you will be surprised as how good they are. It's time for all sports to wake up to the basketball that the women play. But the NCAA, the biggest pair of eyes, the the most voluminous pair of eyes are on your product when it comes to the women, when it comes to basketball. And you're failing them year after year after year. Cole Johnson, Cole Sports, with a Z on YouTube.com. That's my take on things. What's yours? Like this video and share it all throughout your social media community. Comment below because I want to hear what you have to say. And don't forget, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to get any and all content that comes from here. Now check out the mothership because I want to talk about all of these trades and signings in the NFL. And I'm going to mention some other things too about the NFL. For all of us here at Cole Sports, have a wonderful weekend. I'm Cole Johnson, and this has been yet another installment of Cole Sports on the visual and on the daily. See you Monday.